Number 3, Ros McCall.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what its response is to the latest homeless death 2021 figures from the National Records of Scotland, which show that an estimated 250 homeless people died in 2021.
Cabinet Secretary.
These figures serve to remind us of the human story behind the statistics and drives our commitment to do all we can to prevent homelessness from happening in the first place. We know that experience of multiple forms of extreme disadvantage is linked to higher rates of ill health and premature death. The National Mission on Reducing Drug-related Deaths includes work to strengthen partnerships between health and homelessness services to improve outcomes for people experiencing homelessness with complex needs. An independent evaluation shows Scotland's Housing First programme can transform the lives of people with difficult experiences of homelessness.
Ros McCall.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that response. She will be aware that the latest available statistics from the National Records of Scotland show that homelessness death rate in Fife has trebled since 2017. Statistics from Ireland following their own rent freeze show that a 30% increase in the rate of homelessness after that rent freeze went into process. So what evidence does the Cabinet Secretary have that this SNP Green Government's recent Rent Freeze Act will not make an appalling set of statistics in Fife even worse?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, first of all, the rent freeze, of course, was to help tenants afford their rents, and it's very disappointing that the Conservatives didn't recognise the fact that in a cost of living crisis, partly caused by her own UK government, that tenants are going to struggle to pay their rents. Therefore, the rent freeze is to help tenants afford their rents, and that was the whole reason for it. In a cost of living crisis, I would have thought the Conservatives might have supported such a measure. In terms of going forward with that, the member will be aware that the rent freeze is in place until the end of March, and we've set a number of criteria to look at whether that will be extended. And of course, we're in dialogue with the social rented sector around an agreed outcome with them, which will be announced soon. In terms of drug deaths, I've set out the complex nature of homelessness deaths, and the relationship with multiple forms of extreme disadvantage relating to things like drug-related deaths. So we need to understand the complexity of this, and I think to try and link it to a rent freeze is a rather simplistic look at what is a very complex issue. And we'll continue to tackle homelessness. We'll also continue to invest in reducing drug-related deaths through the investment of the £250 million over the course of this Parliament. We will continue to do that because we are concerned about the human stories and tragedies behind these statistics.
Brief supplementary, please, Co-Cap Stewart.
Thank you. These figures are, as the Cabinet Secretary rightly said, heartbreaking, and my thoughts are very much with everyone who has lost a loved one. In addition to the measures already outlined, could the Cabinet Secretary provide further detail on the legislative measures the Scottish Government is taking to tackle homelessness, in particular on the suspension of the local connection test, which came into force this week, and also measures in the forthcoming housing bill?
Briefly, please, Cabinet Secretary.
So, local connection requirements have long been recognised as a barrier to people realising their rights, which is why we've removed them. Most people who are homeless want to live in a community where they're already settled, but this legislation gives people choice about where they live. And the forthcoming housing bill includes rental sector reforms, further strengthening existing rights for tenants, and introduces new homelessness prevention duties.